Jason Bohrer is here from the Lignite Energy Council. Jason is the president and CEO of that fine organization. Hello, Jason. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, looking forward to catching up here a little bit on your recent trip out to Washington, D.C. Sat down with members of Congress, some senators, some congressmen. And what was the conversation centering around this trip, Jason?
Well, as you can imagine, one of the things we all talked about is just the difference in the last year of what's been able to be accomplished in the coal industry. Our delegation has been great in working with President Trump, the Department of Energy, on the issues that are facing coal right now.
And obviously the change in administration has changed that landscape significantly, but what, even with that change, remains the top concern right now, Jason?
Well, there's a couple things. Number one, we still have long-term uncertainty over what CO2 is going to be treated as in the future. That's number one. I would say number two, we still are very concerned about just the inequality in power markets and the changes that have occurred to how power is sold and distributed and what that means for any type of base load electricity. In our case, you're talking lignite coal.
All right. So when you sit down with these folks, lay out your top concern, walk us through one of these meetings. What are they saying, hey, we think we have this handled? Are they saying, give us your input and we'll give it a shot? What happens?
Yeah, so we went in and sat down with the folks who run the air quality division of the Environmental Protection Agency. So this is the division that dreamed up the Clean Power Plan. And we would have the conversations with them when Barack Obama was president. And, right out of the gate, they would say, you need to do these things. The technology is there. You guys just need to bite the bullet and invest in this technology. So the difference is when we would sit down on this trip, they would say, tell us what you can accomplish. Tell us what you believe the technology allows you to do. And tell us what is actually capable of happening. They were really willing to listen to us and to work with the industry on solutions. Never once did they say, we're not going to do this. Never once did they say this doesn't need to be done. I think that's one of the things that everybody forgets about. These guys, their job is to protect clean air and clean water. It's not to shut down industries. And they were pretty clear. Their goals are clean air and clean water, and they want to make sure that they have the industry's input to make that happen. But those are their goals, and they're going to move toward that regardless of what we would say.
That's a pretty refreshing change, though, from what you've been dealing with the last 8 years prior to this administration, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, then it sets us up. We can have those conversations with the EPA, and then we can go over and talk to members of our congressional delegation and say, hey, we just talked to EPA about X, Y, Z. Here's some changes to federal law that would also be beneficial, not just to the North Dakota coal industry, but changes that would make North Dakota itself as a state stronger and a more important participant in the power industry. And our delegation is able to use their positions to hopefully make those changes happen.
All right, so just in what you described, what are the possibilities? What do you see happening? Rather than fighting for your life, basically, and waging the white hat side of the war on coal, of trying to defend and hold the line for affordable, reliable energy. Now you got somebody to say, look, yeah, we're on the same team. We're on the clean water team with you, right? Clean air team. We're right there with you. What do you get done?
Yeah. So what that difference looks like is under the Clean Power Plan. The old EPA said, hey, to the coal industry, you need to reduce your CO2 emissions by 45% in North Dakota. And the only way you can do that is to shut down power plants. The new approach says they come in and they say, hey, what is technically achievable in reducing carbon dioxide emissions at power plants? And we don't have an exact number, but they're not asking us to trade emissions across state boundaries. They're not asking us to implement efficiency programs that artificially skew the markets. They're saying, tell us what the technology allows you to do, and tell us, let's craft a plan that allows you to reduce CO2 and operate your plants and get the remaining useful life out of those plants while providing electricity that everybody needs. It's a complete change in how they deal with this, because they want to fix the solution, or they want to fix the reduced CO2 emissions, and they want to work with us to make it happen, instead of really what the old administration wanted in many cases, was just to shut power plants down.
Do you ever consider is it worth the industry, having at least a discussion over whether the reduction in CO2 is necessary to protect the environment, or has that train left the station as far as the industry is concerned? And don't wage that battle. Don't go there. Just operate under. We're gonna reduce CO2 and have it be someone on the other end of that table that actually is reasonable about getting there and timelines and everything else. Or do you ever consider the idea of just opening the question of why are we doing this again?
Yeah, I think there's still folks that are willing to have that conversation. But you look at the path forward and say, does Congress possess the votes? Does the EPA possess the political capital to make that happen? And then you say to yourself, if we win that battle, we are still facing this huge uncompetitive power market where coal still needs a change in the paradigm to produce electricity competitively. Right now, we see the CO2 solution, or the CO2 issue as part of that solution. It's going to give us another marketable product to sell for enhanced oil recovery. And I guess if you were at the EPA and said, never mind about CO2, never mind about treating it under the Clean Air Act, guess what? We would still be there at Department of Energy saying, we need $500 million for carbon capture technology. And most of what we're interacting with Department of Energy about wouldn't change. So I guess there's an awareness that would resolve some of the uncertainty on our industry about the long-term future for CO2. On the other hand, our most pressing technological issues still revolve around capturing CO2, regardless of that scenario.
Right, just as for an industry extraordinarily important to North Dakota, the amount of jobs, the amount of economic impact, that has been under assault from extreme environmentalists and the left, essentially politically in this world. It's just got to be so refreshing to be operating on that playing field now and really going about what everybody ought to be concerned about, and just making what you do better rather than are you going to exist or not. I mean, what a refreshing change. That's fun to hear about. Anything else you want to share, Jason?
We've just got a great congressional delegation here in North Dakota. They're up to speed on our issues, and every time we go back there, we meet with a lot of different members of Congress and their staff, and each time we come back, we say, we got the best members on the Hill. So it's a pleasure to have them representing us in North Dakota.
And you've been on one of those congressional staffs before, so you're saying that with some level of expertise on how your typical member of Congress operates, right?
Absolutely. These guys know their issues, and it is refreshing that they want to be as informed as possible, and they're active. You don't just go back there, have a meeting, and then you don't hear from them again. Yesterday, so we've been back from D.C. for 5 days, get an email from Senator Hoeven's office saying, hey, I got a hearing today on this permitting issue. Help me understand that. Let me know what we can do. And it was a great conversation. That doesn't happen in a lot of other states.
I love it. Thanks for the update, Jason. Appreciate it very much. Jason will be guest hosting for me Friday on What's on Your Mind, too. So you'll be hearing more about a few of these issues, and you'll be taking some calls talking about clean, beautiful coal, as our president says. Thank you, Jason. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Jason Bohrer, President and CEO of the Lignite Energy Council.